Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Tom's Gadget Garage. Today, after months of waiting, I have finally gotten my hands on the newly released Segway Ninebot Max G3. Earlier in January of this year, I had the opportunity to go out to the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas, Nevada. And I knew that Segway would be there, and I figured, oh, they'll probably release a new version of the GT2. That'll be really cool. And when I got to the event and I was walking to the Segway display that they had there, I saw a bunch of scooters I'd never seen before, and when I got a closer look, the first thing I saw was G3, and I was like, holy cow, there is no way they're coming out with a successor to the G2 this soon after releasing that in the summer of 2023. And as it turns out, they were, and here we are today with the Ninebot Max G3. And it was at that event that I had the opportunity to test out nearly their entire lineup of new products, including the F3 Pro, the Ninebot Max G3, the GT3, the GT3 Pro, the Zyber, the Safari, their go-kart. I tested it all, and at the end of it, I thought to myself, I've absolutely got to feature some of these on the channel. So the moment that pre-orders opened up on the Ninebot Max G3, I placed the order with my own money, and here we are 3 weeks later with the scooter in hand. Now, I will be doing a feature overview as well as first impressions ride today, but I'm going to be following up this content with a range test, an endurance hill climb test up 17.5 miles of mountain roads, assuming we can make it. And then, of course, our extreme hill climb test up over 23% grades. I'll do a night ride. We'll do a deep dive into the app. We're going to do a bunch of content on this, so stay tuned. It should be a really exciting series. And if at the end of all of this you decide you want to pick one of these up, I will include some affiliate links in the description below, and if you use that to make your purchase, it absolutely helps support this channel and keeps the wheels moving on future reviews. But anyways, I'm gonna stop yapping. We're gonna go ahead and jump straight into the details right now. Alright folks, so to start off with some high-level stats, this Ninebot Max G3 weighs in on my commercial scale at 54 pounds, which puts it at just above half a pound heavier than its predecessor, the Ninebot Max G2. In terms of the maximum payload this scooter can support, it's actually gone up from the Ninebot Max G2 to 286 pounds, or approximately 130 kilograms, which is a sizable increase compared to the 265 pounds or 120 kilograms that the G2 supports. Coming in closer at the rear of the scooter, we do have this plastic fender assembly here, which does have very good coverage. Should go a long way in keeping dirt, debris, water off of you as you're cruising around town. At the rear of this fender assembly is this tail light and brake light combo, and you can actually go into the app and dictate what the behavior of this looks like. So right now, I have it set to get brighter when braking, and as you can see, it brightens up. Or you can set it to flash when braking, which basically makes it just a little more visible for the people behind you. Now, speaking of brakes, this scooter does come equipped with disc brakes in the rear and the front, which is a huge upgrade over the single drum that the Ninebot Max G2 has. It also has cable actuated calipers, which, to be honest with you, is more than sufficient for a scooter of this caliber. If you're curious what those brakes look like in action, here you go. Now, one of the big upgrades on this scooter is the fact that they bumped it up to an 11-inch tire over the 10-inch tire that the Ninebot Max G2 came equipped with, and generally speaking, the bigger the tire, the better. And as you can see, it does have a street tread because this is in fact a commuter scooter. Here we've got our metal swing arms with plastic trim covers, fancy reflectors, and new for 2025, fully hydraulic coil spring suspension, which is fully adjustable. What's exciting about this suspension upgrade is the fact that the Ninebot Max G2 already had pretty much class-leading suspension. Like, riding on that thing was like riding around on a cloud, but with one major drawback. When you ride over, like particularly aggressive lumps and bumps in the road, the Ninebot Max G2 makes a clunking sound in the rear. Not so with this G3 and its hydraulic coil spring suspension in the rear. At the center of the rear wheel, we do have a new and improved 850 nominal watt motor, which can crank out up to 2,000 watts of peak power, which should give this scooter very strong acceleration and hopefully exceptional hill climb performance. According to Segway, that should be enough power to get this thing up to 28 miles an hour. That's 6 miles an hour faster than the 22 that we could hit on the Ninebot Max G2, as well as the ability to scale inclines up to 30%, which is 8% more than the 22% that the Ninebot Max G2 is rated at. At the rear of the deck, we do have this flared out portion, which should help you with foot positioning. I will say though, I wish they did more of an actual kick plate on this scooter, especially given that it could reach speeds up to 28 miles an hour, as well as crank out 2,000 watts of peak power. They really should have done something similar to what they did with the ZT3 Pro. Right here we've got the deck connection point for the folding mechanism on the scooter, which we'll look at in a moment. For the deck we've got this silicone mat which has got some nice texture to it, as well as the Ninebot branding and Max G3 at the front. For our deck dimensions here, I am showing approximately 21¼ inches in length and then about 7½ inches in width. And the distance from the top of the deck all the way to the top of the handlebars is approximately 41 inches. For our kickstand here, we do have a very similar setup to the ZT3 Pro. I'll go ahead and extend it. It's pretty loud. There you go. It is now in its locked position. However, when you kick this up, listen to this. Nice dampened thud. Music to my ears. Let's listen to the ZT3 Pro. Same noise when you extend it, but also very noisy when you collapse it. The difference? This little piece of rubber, which makes collapsing this much easier on the ears. Under this deck here is a 48 volt, 12.75 amp hour battery, which is going to be good for 597 watt hours of capacity, which means this uses the same battery as the ZT3 Pro. According to Segway, that should be good enough to get a 165-pound rider riding around in eco mode in the most ideal of conditions up to 50 miles of range. And if you dial that up to the Sport Plus or the unlocked 28 mile per hour mode, they say you can expect about 25 miles of range. Of course, we'll be putting that to the test. When it comes to charging this scooter up, it doesn't come with the charging brick because all the charging components are internalized here inside of the scooter. The only thing you need to worry about is carrying around this charging cable here, and this here is going to be your charging port. If you charge using the included cable, you can charge from 0% to 100 in approximately 3.5 hours. Now, if you buy their optional external charger, you can double up on charging and charge in as little as 2.5 hours. And this here is your charge port. It's got a rubber covered seal. And there you go. There's your charging port. For those of you needing more range, Segway is going to be selling an external battery pack which actually mounts here to the neck of the scooter, and it's going to be good for approximately 460 watt hours of capacity, which will increase your range significantly. They said that we can expect sales to start July of 2025. And in case you are wondering, the Ninebot Max G3 is certified to the UL 2272 standard. Working our way forward, you will see that this scooter has a hydraulic coil spring front fork suspension, which is an upgrade over the straight coil spring suspension that the ZT3 Pro has. And in case you don't believe me, here it says hydraulic X2, travel 45 millimeters. Also up front here we do have our disc as well as cable actuated caliper. And one thing I want to point out is that the actual axle for the wheel on this scooter is offset from the center line of the fork and stem. What that does is it introduces caster, which is going to make for fantastic straight line stability. Here we've got some fancy plastic trim pieces as well as these screws, which makes removing these and servicing your scooter a breeze. Here up front we do have our nice little reflector as well as this metal bar which serves two purposes. Number one, it's a handle to carry around your scooter if you'd like. Number two, it does, according to Segway, provide a locking point for like a U-lock or cable lock. One little issue I have with that though, and I don't even know if this is going to be an issue or not, but it does appear that there are, let's get a good angle there, some screws here and some screws there, and I assume if you take those off, you'll be able to pull this off. So you better hope that the thief doesn't have a toolkit with them. Something I do want to call out is that Segway mentions steering dampening multiple times on their website. I do not see any kind of traditional steering damper on this scooter. However, when I turn this stem and I turn this steering assembly, it feels unusually smooth. I definitely feel some resistance in there as if there's like a ton of grease or some kind of fluid making this, a lot smoother than it would otherwise be on pretty much any other scooter. So maybe that's what they mean by steering dampening. Like, if anybody knows, let me know in the comment section below. Now, working our way up the stem of the scooter, you're going to find arguably one of the most important components of any scooter, and that is going to be the latching mechanism. Now, this latching mechanism does have multiple safeties built in. Number one, you can't pull this open. You first have to lift this lever and then pull this out. But when that pulls out, it is in this locked position, so it's not going to move unless you further press this down, and that'll release the stem, and you can actually fold it back. Now, once the stem approaches the rear of the deck, you can open up this little loop, and then this, will latch into place, and when I shake this around, it does a pretty good job of holding on. And in this position, you can now pick up this scooter and carry it wherever you want. Further up the stem, we do have this Segway branding as well as this plastic hook, which you can hang bags or groceries off of, and it does support weights up to 5 kilograms or approximately 11 pounds. Further up, you will find these spicy looking red brake cables, which are nicely routed into the stem of the scooter. And then just above that, you will see our glorious headlight. This is a 6-watt headlight, which I can tell you right now is significantly, and by significantly I mean orders of magnitude, brighter than the light that we see on the Ninebot Max G2. And if you want to turn up the temperature a little bit, look at that. Woo! You got this nice little ambient light here. I don't know that you can turn that off. I tried clicking buttons and stuff, but it looks like it's one of those like daytime running lights, similar to the X pattern light that you see on the ZT3 Pro. And sandwiched between that ambient light and the headlight is some additional well-braided cables. And that's where all the wiring sneaks its way into the stem. Working our way up to the cockpit here, you will see we've got our handlebar assembly. On the ends of these handlebars, you actually have turn signals, which are visible from the rear as well as the front, and this is what those look like. You also get a notification on screen that those things are active. And what I like about these is the fact that it's got this rubber end cap here, so that if you do drop this scooter on the side, which you want to avoid of course, it'll help protect this so this doesn't get damaged. To the left of the handlebar assembly, we do have this twist throttle as well as thumb throttle. So if you like twist, you got it. If you like thumb, you got that too. And then of course behind that we do have our cable actuated brake levers, which do have a very nice pull to them. Now if you're like me and have a desire to put some accessories on the handlebars, just know there's not a tremendous amount of space here. However, you do have these little rubber pieces which are removable on both sides, by the way, and this here is going to provide you an area to mount your accessories on. At its narrowest point, this sleeve is 1 1/8 inches wide, or approximately 28.5 millimeters. To the left of our display, we do have this very nice control pad, same one that we find on the ZT3 Pro. It's got a mode button and cruise control button. To enable cruise control, you just push and hold that for like a couple seconds at a set speed. You've got your left as well as right turn signals. And then of course you've got your headlight button. You push once, you turn on the headlight. You press and hold, you can power off the scooter. And your headlight, by the way, you've got on, you've got automatic light sensing headlights, and then of course you got it off. Here on the left-hand side, you do have a programmable button, and there's a variety of functions that you can assign to this. Me personally, I've set this to boost mode, so when I am in sport, outside of park mode, and I push and hold this, it will prepare boost, which I'm not going to be preparing right now because I don't want to boost into my garage door, but we will be doing that on our first impressions ride. Just below the control pad, we have this fancy bell. So no more electronic horn like we saw in the G2. And then of course we've got our left turn signals, left grip, and then left cable actuated brake lever. Now taking a look at our screen for a moment here, there's a lot of information on here. One, we've got a Bluetooth status, we've got the time and military time. We've got our speed mode, so if I click on the mode button, there's our walk mode. Click it again, we're in eco. Click it again, we're in drive. Click it again, we're in sport. You've also got your speed. You can do miles an hour, kilometers an hour. This thing does switch into park mode pretty quickly, which was definitely the case on the ZT3 Pro, which I find highly annoying. So maybe there's a way to, change the timing on that. I don't know. There you go, park again. Really quite annoying. I'm just going to say that again. Our trip distance, we've got remaining range, battery percentage. Nice thing is that range does get adjusted per the drive mode that you're in. So eco mode saying we've got approximately 26 miles of range with 54% remaining. Drive mode 21.7, and sport mode is that 13.4 miles. Another nice thing about this display is that Segway says it incorporates turn-by-turn navigation, which we'll absolutely be putting to the test. And I just want to give a shout out to Segway for putting a really nice display on their scooter. This is a major upgrade over the display that we see on the Segway Ninebot Max G2. Now, if you're curious about water resistance, this scooter does have an IPX6 water resistance rating, so it can withstand high pressure water jets from all directions. That does not mean waterproof, so you'd never want to submerge your scooter at all whatsoever. And just know that most scooter companies, I think all scooter companies, do not cover water damage because they don't know whether you rode around in some light rain or you threw this, into your local lake. So just be aware when you're cruising around in wet conditions. And on that note, the battery on the scooter has an even higher IP rating at IPX7. So one of the really nice things about this scooter is the fact that it is app enabled, which is going to give you access to some of the smart features that this scooter is packed with. So looking at the app, starting at the left, you do have your battery as a percentage. It's also going to give you the range remaining in the particular drive mode that you're in. At the top right, you will have access to their support. So if you have issues, you can reach out to support very easily. Below that, you'll have a Bluetooth icon letting you know you're connected to the scooter. Here, you've got an image of the scooter, of course, but below that, you've got your dashboard. Your dashboard is going to give you your speed, how many watts you're cranking out, your remaining mileage, your trip distance for this particular ride, how long you've been riding, max speed that you reach, the vehicle temperature, which me living out here in Arizona, I'll be paying very close attention to over the summer, how much current you're drawing in amps and what the remaining voltage is in your battery. I really like their dashboard. It's one of the best implementations of that, of any scooter that I've tested. You've got the ability to power on or off your scooter. And then here, you've got your settings menu, and this is where all the goodness resides. So one, you've got a locking function here at the top. When you enable that, you can set up a code lock or pattern lock, however you want. You can do a combination of, triggering these controls, or you can do a pattern lock. And go through that setup. Once that's enabled, you can actually come into here and go into airlock. And when airlock is enabled, you can actually use your phone to unlock the scooter. So when the scooter detects that your phone is nearby, it will unlock, and you can actually adjust the proximity settings with that. Coming out of here, you do have the ability to, enable some abnormality alerts. So if something is happening to your scooter, it'll send you an alert letting you know you might want to go check on it. You've got the Apple Find My functionality here, which is nice. If you have an iOS device, you can use Find My and their network to try and locate your scooter in the event that some filthy animal ran away with it. And then if you scroll down, auto power off, it defaults to 5. I have it set to 16 for the purposes of this video. You've also got traction control, which is going to be really useful when you're riding on wet or slippery conditions. Below that, you've got park on slope. So if you are going to temporarily park this scooter on a steep incline, think like San Francisco hills or really any kind of hill, you can enable this feature. And we'll test all this out on our first impressions ride. Here you can choose which speed modes are enabled. With this, it's Eco, Drive, Sport, and Walk. Below that, you have the ability to customize your speed mode. So as you can see here, you've got Eco, maximum speed 10 miles an hour, Drive 16 miles an hour. Sport mode, I do have it enabled, which unlocks it to 28 miles an hour. By default, it is set to 20, so if I turn this off here, maybe, there we go. It defaults to 20 miles an hour. If I turn it back on, it's going to give me some warning, yes please. And it's going to allow me to set this to 28 miles an hour. And here I can enable boost mode, which is going to give me some stronger acceleration off the start when I enable this and either hold down that custom button that I've programmed, or when I'm holding down the brake and throttle, it'll activate boost and I can go use that. Once you reach your speed and you stop accelerating, it will automatically leave boost mode. When I click back here, scroll down, start speed. This is your kick to start. So I have kick to start disabled, so it just starts from a standstill at 0 miles an hour. By default, it's 1.8. Below that, we've got energy recovery. This is another braking mechanism, which I didn't mention yet, but this scooter does have electronic brakes built into the motors. And they're usually very good on these Segway scooters. I disabled it, but you can set it to weak or standard. And what happens is when you release the throttle, it will automatically brake by itself. And by doing so, it helps put current back into that battery. Below that, you can adjust the sound effects on the scooter. If all that beeping and blurping and all those noises this thing is making is too much, you can come in here and adjust that volume. Turn signal indicator sounds, if you don't want those, you can turn it off. App function tones, you can turn it off. And there's some customizable sound effects. You can upload your own sound effects and things like that, so that's pretty interesting. Below that, custom button settings. So I set it to boost function, which is very nice because I actually mentioned this many times in my review of the ZT3 Pro as well as the Ninebot Max G2 and their boost function, and they actually put this in for the custom button, so I'm very happy to see that. But you can, have that button be park mode, automatic hill hold, walk mode, emergency flashers, which is the default energy recovery level, boost function, custom sound effects, all that fun stuff. Below that, you have light effects to either make your tail light brighter or flash when you hit the brake lights. You've got auto headlight, breathing tail light, which pulsates on and off when you charge, and then your lamp and underglow lights, which I'll go over here in a moment. And then of course you can schedule out your charging. You can set the charging limit from anywhere from, I think it's 80 to 100%. You've got power off after folding, so when you enable this, when you fold your scooter, it'll automatically power that off. And then you've got some dashboard settings, trip odometer stuff, vehicles, Bluetooth, imperial metric system, device info. If I click on this, it'll tell me I've got 8.9 miles on this scooter. I have been riding it around, adjusting the brakes, all that fun stuff. Vehicle temperature, vehicle controller, firmware details. I can check for firmware updates. It's loading here. It'll let me know whether something's available. It is not. And then I can go into here to battery details and get additional information about the battery, total capacity, battery health, all of that fun stuff. So this is a fully featured app. So whatever you can basically imagine doing, you can do in the Segway app. Probably one of the best apps, if not the best app on the market today. All right, folks, so I'm going to give you a quick demonstration of how the airlock function works. So what I've done is I have turned off Bluetooth on my phone, and I'm going to come over here and try and turn on this scooter. Little Ninebot logo, and airlock failed because I have Bluetooth off. Hit the power button to manually enter a code. My code is up, down, right, left. Please don't steal my scooter. And there we go. We are unlocked. Now what I'm going to do is power this off. And I'm going to go ahead and turn the Bluetooth feature on my phone. Bluetooth is on. Now I'm going to hit this power button. It's searching for my phone. And boom, we are good to go. Now, if you want more of a visual, affirmation, or I should say confirmation, that airlock function is working, you can make it so that when you're within airlock distance, it will flash these lights letting you know that it's detecting your phone so that you can unlock it. Now, I did turn down the lights for this part because I want you to be able to see it. But this scooter does have underglow lights, which are mounted right here on either side of the scooter. What are underglow lights? Well, let me go ahead and turn on our headlights. Boom. See those headlights? Pretty cool, right? Watch what happens when I turn my left turn signal on. Nice. Right turn signal. It's lighting up on the other side. This is going to be fantastic for riding around at night. During the day, you're not going to be able to see those at all whatsoever. That's where these turn signals come in handy. These are bright and I've never had an issue with those. But for night riding, you've got all that excitement going on down there. Now, before I head out on our first impressions ride, I do want to show you what this Ninebot Max G3 looks like in comparison to its predecessor, the Ninebot Max G2. Now, if you follow my channel for a long time, you probably already know this, but that Segway Ninebot Max G2 is the whole reason why I started this channel. I actually ordered that. I pre-ordered it in the summer of 2023. I got mine sometime in June, and ever since then, I've been making scooter and e-bike content. So this scooter here is near and dear to me. And with that being said, if you see this little GoPro mount, yeah, I put that on there. It doesn't come with the scooter. I used to try and get like pretty fancy little angles for people to see how the suspension works and all that fun stuff. But those mounts are pretty strong. It's very difficult to get that thing off, so I decided to leave it on. Anyways, here's a side-by-side comparison. And as you can see, these scooters look very similar, almost identical in some respects. Looking at the fender assembly, very similar shape, same taillight, same little registration plate thing on both of these scooters, but it's not the same. Number one, the latching mechanism on the G2 is there. On the G3, it's here. This was pretty annoying, folding this down. I mean, it gets the job done, but compared to this, it's no comparison. Another thing to mention is the maintenance on these scooters. So with this, if you need to take that fender off and these trim pieces off, you'd have to remove this adhesive sticker here to expose the screws. So then you can unscrew those and remove this whole assembly. With the G3, they took note. You know, that's a frustrating experience on the G2. With this, you just pop these external screws out here on both sides. There's some screws over there, and you can pop this assembly off. There is no adhesive peeling at all whatsoever. And if you're wondering about this plastic trim piece, look at that. You've got these little plugs, rubber plugs here that cover the screws. You just pop those out, you can unscrew it, and you can take off the trim pieces. That makes this much, much easier to service compared to its predecessor, the glorious Ninebot Max G2. Another difference here is that we've got our disc brakes on the G3 and only electronic braking in the rear of the G2. And then if you look at the suspension, they look pretty similar. The biggest difference here, though, is that these are hydraulic, these are coil spring only. These here make a clunking sound when you go over things really quick. This one here does not. And another thing to point out is the angle of this rear shock absorber is much steeper than the angle that you would find on the Ninebot Max G2. Now, if you're curious about deck space on this scooter, they are both very similar but not the same. So the Ninebot Max G3 is about an inch longer of usable deck space and about a ½ inch wider of usable deck space. And part of the way that they're able to accomplish this is, as you can see here, the neck of the scooter actually comes out of the deck further forward than it does on the Max G2. As you can see, there's a sizable gap here, a very little gap there. Tail end of the scooters, though, looks very similar. This here, actually, when I put my hand in here, touching the actual battery box, there's some space there. With here, it's much farther forward, so they actually extended this out a little bit as well. And you can see some changes here in the shape of the back. But once again, you know, I do wish they put more of a kick plate here. It does allow for a more aggressive stance, and for me, a more comfortable stance. But anyways, we'll see how it holds up, especially over our range tests. There's a quick look at the folding mechanism. They look similar at first glance, but they are in fact different. And then we've also got a different latching mechanism here. You got a lever on this side, and on this one you've got a side mounted lever, which you can't see right now, but that's similar to what I see on some of the e-bikes that I test out on this channel. And then of course you've got the front fork suspension here, and then you've got this single coil spring and hydraulic suspension up front. And guess what? This is our horn on the Ninebot Max G2, a little beep, beep, beep action. We no longer have a horn here. They instead went with a bell. And once again on the Ninebot Max G2, you've got more of this adhesive reflectors that do have screw holes under them, so you have to remove that to access those, which is really unfortunate. They have the little rubber plugs here, but not down here, which, anyways, you don't see that on the Max G3. It's actually got nice screws, easy to access. You can pop those off, take the trim pieces off. You are good to go. All right, folks, so now that we've gone over all the features of this scooter, I'm gonna go ahead and get this thing charged up, and we're gonna head out on our first impressions ride. All right, folks, so I'm out here with the Ninebot Max G3 on our first impressions ride, and I just wanted to show you how this lock operates. I actually turned off the Bluetooth on my phone, but anyways, if somebody were to walk up to your scooter, lift the kickstand, start moving it, as you can see, I mean, it's a lot of resistance. Look at this, I'm pushing it, pulling it, and it is doing everything it can to lock up the wheels and prevent me from moving it. So that's a really nice security feature. It's not going to prevent somebody from, you know, picking up the scooter and running away with it, but at least, you know, it provides something. And with that Apple Find My, if somebody does run away with it, you have a very high likelihood of finding it. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and get this thing powered on, and we'll go ahead and hop straight into our first impressions ride. Let me enter my fancy, oh, my code is wrong. Oops, that's what happens, wrong password. Up, down, right, left. All right, there we go. I'm gonna get this turned around. We'll hop on the streets here and start cruising around. All right, so to start us off, we are in eco mode. The speed limit for this mode is 10 miles an hour, and as you can see on the display, that's what we're cruising around at. If I hit the mode button, we'll go into drive. That should take us to 16 miles an hour. Let's see. The GPS on screen will keep us honest, but I'm showing 16. And then we're gonna go ahead and hop into sport mode. And this is where I have max speed set to 28 miles an hour. And of course, we will be doing a top speed and acceleration test later on in this video. But as of right now, it looks like we're cruising around somewhere around 28 miles an hour. Go ahead and pull around here. So, first thing I'm noticing with this scooter is the suspension. So there's some lumps and bumps in the road here. And somehow, some way, they've improved the already plush suspension on the Ninebot Max G2. Now, it's got a really good feel to it. You know, if I really bounce on it, I can bottom it out. But for me weighing in at 203 pounds, I mean, this is perfect. Let's see, we'll go ahead and turn here. So yeah, those hydraulics go a long way in improving the ride experience. We'll see if we can find some lumps and bumps in the road, see if we get any knocking sound. I didn't have any of that when we were out in Vegas testing this out, and I don't think we're going to have that either. Now, another thing that I'm noticing with this scooter is that it's got really good handling, and I think we can attribute that to the caster that we have in that front wheel. So that front axle, as I was mentioning earlier, is positioned rearward of the line of the stem and the suspension, which makes for really good straight line stability. Now, I just feeling this now as we're riding, I do think the ZT3 Pro has that dialed in a little bit better than this scooter. But, you know, we'll be putting that to the test when we do our, you know, hill climb test up Phoenix's South Mountain. When we go down the mountain, we usually reach high speeds and take those mountain curves. And that's always a great place to test out the handling of these scooters. So we're going to go ahead and head onto our bike trail here. That'll give us an opportunity to test out brakes and more handling and all that fun stuff. And we'll head on over to that dog park, which has got some inclines we can test the hill climb ability of this scooter with. It's a full garbage can there. All right, let's see. We're riding off the beaten path here on some gravel, right up and over that. So as you can see, this path that I'm riding on has got these gaps between these pavement sections, and you know, this suspension's eating that right up. So that says a lot. Now, one thing I do want to mention, because it's annoying me right now, I'm going to slow down here, and I mentioned it earlier, is this scooter does not have a kick plate. And so, you know, my foot is really on the edge here. When that suspension is, you know, moving up and down, I can feel the back of my heel hitting up against this. There's some little scuff marks there. Anyway, Segway, if you're listening, it would be awesome if you made like some kind of an attachment or something to give us the ability to have more of a kick plate. You know, I could position my feet, I don't know how well you're not going to see it, but I could position my feet a little closer together, but for a scooter that cranks out 2,000 watts of power and has some of the acceleration that this thing has, and you got to have a kick plate. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the throttle response on this scooter. I'm going to slow down here. We are crawling, and I'm going to slowly apply the throttle. I'm going to apply it a little more, a little more, a little more. And see, as you can see, we got very granular control of the throttle, which is nice to see. You know, some scooters, you know, apply the power rather aggressively. Here, you do have that granular control. One thing I am noticing, though, is the throttle, when you're cruising around at higher speeds, it is a little touchy. So when I'm over here trying to maintain speeds, you know, the scooter speeding up and slowing down a little bit because I'm trying to lock in that speed with the thumb throttle here. And so we do get some of that back and forth on our speed. So it's a little bit difficult to maintain a speed when you hit the bumps. Your thumb kind of pushes the throttle a little bit. That's something that you can take care of with cruise control. Let's go ahead and enable that. I'll push the cruise control button, hold it for a couple seconds. Boom, cruise control is on. You can see it on the screen. It makes a nice little sound, letting you know that's active. That is nice. Let's see what happens when I hit the brakes a little bit. Cruise control is off. Looks like it makes a little sound there and gives us an indication that it is off. Let's see. Let me try and maintain speed here again. So right here. So I'm trying to maintain, you know, precisely 18 miles an hour. But when you run over little bumps in the road and things like that, your thumb is kind of pushing there, and you kind of feel this, you know, forward and back motion. Very subtle, but I think that could be addressed with a firmware update. So if you're curious what the top speed and acceleration look like officially, and how this scooter compares to some of its competitors, I'm going to go ahead and play that video clip of the speed and acceleration test right now. Alright folks, so today we're going to be doing a top speed and acceleration test with this Ninebot Max G3. I will be tracking this ride with the Draggy GPS performance monitor, so I do have a receiver on my helmet, and we will be using the Draggy app. Now I do have the sports setting set to 28 miles an hour, so that's maximum speed, so we'll do a couple runs with that, and then we'll go ahead and switch on over to boost mode and see how that performs. So we're going to go ahead and do round one in 3, 2, 1, go. All right, a little slow of a start, but it's picking up speed here. Showing 23 on the screen, 26, 27, 28 miles an hour. We'll keep it going for a little bit. All right, we're gonna go ahead and call it there. All right, so for that run, 0 to 10, 2.54 seconds, 0 to 15, 3.99 seconds, 0 to 20, 6.04 seconds, 0 to 25, 8.91, and we hit a top speed of 28 miles an hour in 13.54 seconds. So I'm gonna go ahead and get us turned around, and we're gonna try this again in the other direction. Starting round 2 in 3, 2, 1, go. Okay. Slow start again, but we're picking up speed pretty quickly. Showing 20 on the display, 24, 27, 28 miles an hour. We'll keep it going for another couple seconds. All right, we're gonna go ahead and call it there. All right, folks, so for this run, 0 to 10, 3.11 seconds, 0 to 15, 4.61 seconds, 0 to 20, 6.28 seconds, 0 to 25, 8.87 seconds, and we hit a top speed of 28 miles an hour in 12.25 seconds. I'm gonna go ahead and enable boost mode. We're gonna try this again. And we're gonna start this test in 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, significantly faster start. 25, 28. We're gonna go ahead and hold that for a little bit here. All right, go ahead and see how we did. So for boost mode, round 1, 0 to 10, 2.02 seconds, 0 to 15, 3.29 seconds, 0 to 20, 4.8 seconds, 0 to 25, 6.64 seconds, and we had a top speed of 28 miles an hour in 12.49 seconds. I'm gonna go ahead and get us turned around, and we're gonna try that one last time. All right, folks, starting boost mode, round 2 in 3, 2, 1, go. Wheel came up a little bit there. 20 miles an hour, 25, 28 miles an hour. We're gonna hold it there for a moment. All right. Let's see how we did on round 2. All right, so 0 to 10 miles an hour, 2.58 seconds, 0 to 15, 3.83 seconds, 0 to 20, 5.23 seconds, 0 to 25, 7.77 seconds, and we had a top speed of 28 miles an hour in 11.17 seconds. So what I'm gonna go ahead and do is compile this data, we'll talk about it, and see how this scooter compares to some of its competitors. All right, folks, so as you can see from that test, really solid performance out of this scooter. I mean, if you look at some of the other scooters we tested it against, for example, the ZT3 Pro, the Apollo Go, the VMAX VX4, the original Ninebot Max G2, this scooter outperforms all of those. You know, it's able to hit a higher top speed, and it's able to get there a lot quicker. Now, one thing that I think is going to be really important to mention here is that it does have slightly slower takeoff than some of those other scooters, which could be indicative of lower low-end torque. And it's low-end torque that's going to really help us through some of those very steep inclines. So, you know, as I mentioned, we will be putting this through various hill climb tests. We'll do some little ones here at this dog park. But once you get past that like 15 mile an hour mark, this thing really kicks it into high gear, and you can feel it. It's just got slightly slower takeoff speeds than a lot of its competitors. Another thing to mention about the speed test results is that, you know, this scooter does have boost mode, but boost mode is not on demand. So if I push and hold this button, it's not enabling boost mode. I literally have to come to a stop to enable that. So it's not an on-demand feature. So for most of my riding, I will be in sport mode with the top speed unlocked to 28 miles an hour. And so that's usually what I use as the benchmark for, you know, speed and all that fun stuff. But here's some grass. Let's cruise around on this. And folks, I can't tell you, it's hard to explain this, but this suspension is an absolute dream. I mean, they really nailed it down. That's one thing that I have yet to see a worthy competitor for in terms of suspension. Like, it's literally unmatched. I'm gonna go ahead and loop around, and we're gonna try climbing one of these little grassy hills here. There's a 22% grade over there, which we'll see how this does on this hill first. All right, throttle's all the way in. We're in sport mode, speed capped at 28 miles an hour, and we made it right up and over. So that was solid. Throttle's all the way in, 22% grade, right up ahead. Here we go, folks, 22% grade. Can we make it? It's pushing, it's pushing. Oh, 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 oh. I can hear the motor doing something. Boom. We made it up, folks. So I have a feeling this is gonna be a hill climbing beast. Let's see how it does on something like this from a standstill, okay? So we're completely stopped. I'm gonna go ahead and hop on, hit the throttle, and it's powering through, not enough to make it up that. What I'm gonna do now is enable our friend, oh, it says not allowed. Okay, hold on a second. Boost mode, not allowed. Maybe we're at 75% battery, so maybe it has something to do with that. So boost mode, it looks like it is a feature that is available when you do have more battery in the tank. I like what companies like Segway and VMAX are doing with the caster on these scooters, because it makes for incredible stability, especially at higher speeds. And I think to a certain extent it helps prevent things like speed wobbles, which are one of your worst enemies on a scooter. All right, so we're gonna do a little brake test. We're a little over 20 miles an hour right now. I'm gonna go ahead and do that in 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, definitely significant improvement over the brakes on the Ninebot Max G2. One thing I will say is that the brake levers are more sensitive on the ZT3 Pro. So if you're coming from that scooter, that one there, you barely have to pull on the levers to get the wheels to lock up. With this, you know, it's more of a progressive feel to it. You know, so let's go ahead and speed up again. We'll do that test a second time, and we're gonna do it in 3, 2, 1, go. As you can see, I'm leaning my weight back. If I'm just standing straight up and down and brake like that, I'm gonna fly over the handlebars. Definitely something you want to avoid at all costs. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull over for a second. I'll show you how that regenerative braking works. So right now when I release the throttle, I glide, I coast until, you know, Newton's laws, you know, take effect there. But, all right, so I got us turned around here, and I'm gonna go ahead and turn on our regenerative braking. That is called energy recovery. I'm gonna go ahead and put it to standard. So with regenerative braking on this scooter, I am cruising around. Let's see, you know, let's try and get up to top speed. I do have it set to that standard. So we're getting moving here. Okay, and now I'm gonna just go ahead and release the throttle. And the scooter is actually slowing down by itself. It's applying that regenerative brake. So yeah, very nice feel, nothing too aggressive. So if you wanna use that for, you know, planned stops, you can absolutely do that. So I went ahead and got us turned around. There's one thing I wanna test on those hills, and that is the little hill assist for parking on hills. So I'm going into the app, I'm gonna click settings, park on slope. Press and hold the brake lever to lock the motor. Okay, okay, great. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn that on. I'm gonna take it up this steep slope here. It's hard to even push this scooter up on this thing. Press and hold the brake lever. Oh, H, you gotta wait for the H to show up on the screen. Now we are in hill hold mode. Take a look at that. Nice and steep, holding strong. Let's try something steeper. So you have to hit the brake to disengage that feature. Okay, and we're gonna go right here. This looks a little bit steeper. Right here, the steepest section. Okay, I'm going to press and hold the brake lever. H, put the kickstand down. And folks, take a look at that. I don't know how well you can see the angle on the camera, but that is super steep and it is holding strong. So very nice feature. Go ahead and deactivate that. And we will continue on our ride. Go over this little lip here. Suspension, just making that look easy. So what I'm gonna go ahead and do right now is head on over to a little place where we can test this scooter out riding off the beaten path. Now keep in mind, this is not an off-road scooter just because it has suspension. Here's some river rocks, river pebbles. We're cruising over that. You know, a lot more comfortable than it looked like it was gonna be. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and transition to our little off the beaten path area. Okay, this is our little off-road area. I'm in sport mode. We got ground squirrels all over the place, having a blast, digging up new holes. This place has got different terrain every time because these little guys. We're gonna go ahead and turn down this embankment. Yeah, here we go. And then we'll see if we can come back around. All right, lean back and just let gravity do the work. I can't even see where I'm going. All right, here we go. That looks like it. Go ahead and go up. Oh shoot. We did not make it. So what I'm gonna do is switch this to walk mode, hit the throttle, and there we go. Walk mode activated, folks. That was not a fair test because we've already done a bunch of steep inclines. So on a full battery, we wouldn't have any issue with that. But if you do find yourself needing to push the scooter, you can always drop it down into walk mode. We are wearing down the battery quick, 27%. And here's a little more of some hard packed dirt. Some of this is like washboard type surface with gravel. And yeah, suspension's soaking a lot of this right up. Well, obviously not all of it because there's some pretty deep little trenches here, but we're powering through. This is a relatively comfortable ride. Definitely more than you're probably gonna find on your daily commute. That's for sure. Anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and pull over. We'll see how far we made it on this ride. And yeah, I'll give you my thoughts on this scooter. All right, folks, so there you have it. That was our first impressions ride with the newly released Segway Ninebot Max G3. On today's ride, we went about 14.5 miles. It says we got 25% battery remaining, which comes out to approximately 6.2 miles of remaining range based on its estimates. In sport mode, so maybe we can squeeze out more, but of course I will be doing a full range test in the future, stay tuned for that. But anyways, what do I think about this scooter? Well, it's definitely still got class leading suspension, so the Max G2 has held that position in my mind for the longest time, and the G3 has now carried forward the baton. I mean, no other single motor commuter scooter at this price point comes even close to the suspension of this, and that's what you get with hydraulic dampening. You know, it's very smooth, very comfortable. Another thing I want to mention is that handling is definitely on point. I think it sits just behind in the handling department to the ZT3 Pro, but still nonetheless very easy, very comfortable to ride, very confidence-inspiring ride. Some things that I think can use some improvement. We don't have a kick plate, and as you can see, my foot has touched this, you know, when we're riding off-road. You know, naturally I want to position it there when going down steep inclines. For the most part, it's here, and you know, maybe my heel is sticking out a little bit and this thing is bouncing into it. This here will give you a good idea of my foot position. It's almost all the way forward there, and then we got it positioned here on the deck. And so I do wish they had a kick plate. So Segway, I'm sure you can come up with something that bolts on and makes that easy, but that would be a really cool accessory that I would absolutely buy. Another thing to mention is this throttle. You know, when you're trying to maintain speeds, especially higher speeds, it is a little bit sensitive. So you do speed up, slow down a little bit with just the little bumps in the road. And so I would like to see a firmware update to kind of dampen the sensitivity on this a little bit. But other than that, very good throttle response. So other than that, this is a fantastic scooter. I definitely think they knocked it out of the park with the Ninebot Max G3. Obviously, I'll be taking it on a range test, hill climb test, extreme hill climb test. We'll do night rides. We're going to do it all. And after I, put on hundreds and hundreds of miles on this scooter, only then will I be putting out a comprehensive end-to-end review. But in the meantime, if you subscribe, if you haven't subscribed already, I do publish this content on a regular basis, so you can definitely stay tuned with some of the updates that I put out on this scooter. Anyways, if you do want to pick one of these up, I will include an affiliate link in the description below, both to Amazon and to Segway. If you use that to make your purchase, it absolutely helps support this channel, and it keeps the wheels moving on future reviews so that I can buy more scooters like this to feature on the channel. Now, if there's anything in particular you want to see me test out, let me know in the comments section below. And as always, thank you so much for tuning into Tom's Gadget Garage. We'll see you next time.